So as if I've been dead until now. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, God is one. Amen. Well, good morning. There's just one person on there at the moment, and it is Anthony. I'm not surprised about that, Anthony. I hope things are nice for you over there. Here, you can probably see it's nice and sunny. It's cold and it's very damp, but it's lovely and sunny. I was told earlier on by Brother Daniel that in the monastery, it's been raining a great deal. I think we're going to get quite a lot of good. Brother Daniel, happy St. Hybel to you as well. I think it's going to get quite damp and cold and very windy here as well. Good morning, Emma. I don't know how it is that you've managed to get out of your chickens. The ones in the monastery have definitely gone on strike. They're not producing any eggs at all. Either that, or Buster or Brother Daniel are getting them to them first and eating them. They probably have a secret little stash somewhere. They're having boiled eggs all the time. Good morning, Corey and Judith, Stella. You're with us today, Tatiana and Andrew. Good morning. Hot water with mash. That might be an idea. That could cheer them up. I wonder if that'll encourage the rats to come round. Good morning, Gary, in the famous Black Country Museum. Why is it now famous? I remember going there before. It was lovely, actually, the Black Country Museum. Very interesting. It must be 20 odd years ago since I was there. Good morning, Graham and Marcus. Good morning. Hopefully we'll try and talk later on today. Good morning, Tony, from a very soggy Ireland. That's bad news. As we said before, we often get your weather afterwards. Right, let's begin. Today we're going to start a new chapter in John. I ought to say good morning to Christopher, who's over here as well. A good 2 meters away from me, so that's safe. Good morning to Ian. We're going to start a new chapter in John. John chapter 2. We're just going to look at verses 1 through 4. And then later on today, probably only about 2 or 3 minutes after we finish this, I will then continue with doing from 4 to the end of that miracle, which is the end of verse 11. So I'm going to read the first section of this, just the first 4 verses, and then we'll carry on from there. On the 3rd day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." Okay, so that's enough for today. Now, first of all, just say something about what John does. We've said this before, but it's worthwhile saying again. Good morning, Mariana and Irini. He divides up, or he composes his gospel from a whole series of groups of 7. So there are 7 miracles, 7 signs, he calls them. The greatest one of all is the last, which is the crucifixion. And there are 7 big parables. There are 7 I am sayings, and so on. So that you get this idea, 7 being a perfect number, that he's giving you the perfect gospel. And he comes at the gospel in this highly stylized way that we've seen already. So in that way, he's not behaving like any of the synoptic gospel writers, so Matthew, Mark, and Luke, who have some other sort of structure to it and trying to give a time to it. John is giving a theological structure to it rather than anything else. We start off here with the first sign in Cana of Galilee. Let's get my notes. Now, we don't know quite which day it is, but it makes a great deal of sense if this is Sunday, because it's the last of the 7 days. And if it is Sunday, it means that it can't be Saturday, because that'd be a day of rest. So it's either Friday or it is Sunday. If it is Sunday, then it gives you a sort of foretaste also of the resurrection in the way the water gets changed into wine later on. Okay, There could be either. It could be Friday. And if it is Friday, then we've got the first of the 7 signs and the last of the 7 signs taking place on the same day. And that also is a significant thing. And where does it happen? It happens in a place called Cana of Galilee. There are quite a number of places that claim to be Cana of Galilee. And surprise, surprise, all of these places sell you large quantities of very good quality wine. I've had some Cana of Galilee wine from a place in Lebanon, which was delicious. It was so thick and so strong that you definitely had to water it down before you could drink it. Otherwise, you'd be like the people who went to the party. They wouldn't have stood up and wandered around for quite a long time afterwards. So 3 places, all of them claim to be, at least 3, all of them claim to be Cana of Galilee. The other 2 are just north of Nazareth. And hopefully none of my Lebanese friends are watching this, because I think it's probably one of those 2. But the really interesting thing is the fact that it's not really known whereabouts it is underlines what an unimportant place Cana was. Okay, Josephus talks about being billeted in Cana of Galilee at one point, but even then, we don't really know whereabouts that Cana would be. It's a bit like saying, okay, well, Father Philip went to Beckenby in Lincolnshire. You say, oh, well, that's good for you. Whereabouts is that, Father? And I'd have to tell you, well, it's about 17 kilometers northeast from Lincoln. And then you might have a slight idea if you knew where Lincoln was. But it doesn't even happen that way. And someone like Beckenby could easily disappear in history, and nobody had the slightest idea where it was, except maybe from this video hundreds of years in the future. And so there used to be a place 17 kilometers to the northeast of Lincoln called blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a place of insignificance. And that, in a way, is what is really significant about it, that it is a place of insignificance. The Lord has not chosen to go somewhere really important to do his first miracle. And there's something to be said for the idea the Lord didn't really choose to go and do his first miracle there at all. He's been pushed into it. What else do we know about it? Well, his mother was there, and she presumably lived in Nazareth. She might have lived in Capernaum, of course, later on, but at that time was presumably living in Nazareth. Joseph is not mentioned, and therefore Joseph by now must already be dead. Gathering what happens afterwards, it's likely that the rest of the relatives of the Lord are there too, because it says that his mother and brothers went down from there to Capernaum. So it's a bit of a family gathering, and it's likely that the bride and bridegroom are family or friends of the Lord. Okay, all that is likely. We don't know, but that last little bit there is likely. And the Lord is there. He has been invited, and it rather looks as if at the last minute his disciples have been invited as well. And that in itself is interesting. In verse 2, it says Jesus and his disciples, both Jesus and his disciples, were invited to the wedding. So already by now, they have become a distinct group of people. The Lord and his disciples, and his mother is there too. And that I think is quite important, because just the verse before, the Lord is just beginning to choose his disciples. And that probably, the fact that he now has disciples, may be the thing that inspires the Mother of God, the Theotokos, to talk to her son in such a way. Okay? So, what have they done? They have come to the marriage, in verse 2 as well. The Lord honors the marriage with his presence, and by doing so, blesses marriage. A lot is made of that when you come to get married. you'll find that the reading for a marriage is this one. And within the service of marriage, you get quite a lot being said about the Lord being at the marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the fact that he blessed it with his presence, and by doing so, blessed marriage itself. And we'll come on to that in a little while. Historically, that was quite important as well, because there was a heretic called Marcion who taught that marriage was a corrupt thing. He was really going along taking St. Paul to a ridiculous extent. St. Paul says that he wishes that everybody was like he was, i.e. single. And Marcion sort of fed on this one, that actually the thing was that it is better to be single than to be married. That is not the church's teaching, and the various members of the church fathers, people like St. Augustine and St. John Chrysostom, talk about the way that the Lord obviously honors marriage by actually turning up to one and being there and helping out at it. You see Vicky and Elias and Melengith are all there. God bless you. Nice for you to be at home today, Melengith. I hope it's a good day there for you. And then calamity. They run out of wine. Well, I don't think we need to go very far in the world in order to know where these things are. Back then, this would have been a terrible dishonor to the family, a really terrible dishonor, to under-cater to such a great extent that they run out of wine, running out of food. A real calamity. Many years ago, I lived in Yemen, in Sana'a. And I remember going with my parents, and my younger brother and I were invited to a Yemeni wedding. It was a relation of one of the students that my father was teaching, who was getting married. And we all went out quite a long way into the countryside and came to the small village. It was a small village, 300 or 400 people living there. And we all began, only men and my mother, began out in a farm, well out in the countryside, about a mile out in the countryside. And there was a sort of open area where everybody danced and fired off their Kalashnikovs and that sort of thing. And I remember them giving me a Kalashnikov because I didn't look quite male enough without one. I was then about 17, I guess. I remember looking at this thing, my mother saying, make sure you don't fire it, make sure the safety catch is on, and all this sort of thing. Be quiet, Mum. I'm not going to fire it. And neither, sadly, did I take part in the dancing, which I didn't do. I wish I had done that, but I didn't. So I watched it all. It was all very fascinating and very wonderful. And then we went from there into the town itself. The women, minus my mother, were all sitting on the roofs of the place, ululating, so making a sound as we came in. More guns were fired off, and great big crackers and stuff let off, and huge bangs and crashes, and people banging together pots and pans. And we came into the place itself. The bride and bridegroom were married by now. They married in separate areas. Whether or not he'd seen her, I don't know. And then there was a big feast. The women all had a feast in one place, and the men all had a feast in another place. And the thing I remember most about it was the huge amount of food that was there. And we stayed there an exceedingly long time, and nobody looked to be leaving. And eventually we just had to go. And we were, I think, the first people to go. And that probably was very rude. Everybody else was probably settling in for 2 or 3 more days of festival. And that's exactly how it would have been for this wedding too. They would have met, there would have been a huge feast, the men and women would have been more together than a Yemeni one, but there would have been an astronomical amount of food and drink to be had. And the idea was that people would feast until they burst pretty well, and they drank until they were legless. ideas of not getting legless would not have occurred to them. Okay, so if the wine had run out on the very first day, this was something of a calamity, a sort of dishonor that will completely ruin the entire family reputation for all time in that place. The whole community would gossip about it for the rest of their lives. Do you remember that time? You know, at I don't know, Abraham and Sarah's wedding, and the wine ran out, and the food was no good. Oh my goodness, they didn't spend enough money. They weren't very hospitable, and all that sort of thing. Now, into this comes the Theotokos, and when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Okay, they needed more wine. And the Mother of God comes to him and says, "They have no wine." She clearly expects him to do something about it. Okay, do something about it. They have no wine. We can't have a catastrophe like this going on probably in our family, but certainly amongst our friends. Now, quite a number of people argue that at this point she looks round, she sees a large number of people, she realizes that he now has disciples. She knows all about his history, of course. She saw the angels, she saw the wise men, she saw the shepherds, she saw the star. She knows how he grew up. She remembers what he did in Jerusalem when he was a 13-year-old. By staying behind, and now the time has come. Well, this looks like a good time to do something spectacular, Jesus. You've got all these people here, you can make them all into your disciples. And he says, no, the time has not come. It's quite interesting what he actually says. She's expecting still, of course, obedience from her son. In the Ten Commandments, it says, honor your father and your mother, that you may live long in the world, long in the land. And that honor continues throughout your entire life, even, of course, with us too, even beyond somebody's death. So you speak well of your parents, you bring honor to them and to your family, and you visit their graves, you pray for them, you might put flowers in the grave, you keep their grave clean, and all that sort of stuff. And this is a way of continuing to honor your father and your mother. And it's an act of obedience. But the Lord does not want a great Hollywood spectacular in front of a crowd of people. That's not what he's going to do. That isn't the sort of Messiah. That's not the sort of man that he is. And he says to her, woman. Well, first of all, the word woman. It sounds a bit rude, but it's only rude in English. In Greek and in Hebrew, it would not be rude. It's like saying madam. But equally, he's not saying mother. It's not mater. It is woman, gune. Okay? Gunai. It is difficult to translate, Christos, you're right. I'm going to have a go in a minute. So it's like madam. Now, instead of mother. So it is formal, slightly cold. It is a way of showing that he's actually somewhat distancing himself from her at this point. The thing is that he happens to be God, and you cannot tell God what to do, even if you are yourself the Theotokos, the God-bearer, the Mother of God. So, sorry, now you have to be obedient to me, madam. Okay? He also uses this word, woman, when he is on the cross, and he says to John, behold your mother, and to his mother, behold your son. It's formal, it's not close. It feels more like a legal thing, okay? I want you to keep this in mind. So at this point, the Lord is re-establishing the relationship between himself and his mother. In the long run, although she may well be the Theotokos, and she is, of course, the Theotokos, but he is first. He is God. She will serve him, not the other way around. Okay, she's certainly his mother. And it's interesting here, it says the mother of Jesus, but we know her to be the mother of God. And you get this slight transition. Okay, lots of people wanted in the past to call her the mother of Jesus in order to deny his divinity. But we, of course, both accept his humanity and also promulgate his divinity as well. And he then says this very interesting thing, ti imi ke si, what you and me, what to you and to me, woman. Now that doesn't translate at all into English. It's an Aramaic idiom, it's a way of saying things. It's a bit like saying, well, what's that to me? Your concerns are not mine. How is this my business? Okay. What you're worrying about is not what I'm worrying about. That gives the overall flavor of what the Lord is saying there to his mother. Okay. And he then says, well, my hour has not come. All the way through, when the Lord is talking about the hour, my hour has not come, or the hour will come when, to ora, he always uses it in terms of his crucifixion. So the great sign is going to be the crucifixion. My hour has now come. The hour has come. Now I will do this. But this is not the right hour. This is not the moment. Previously, various people have tried to show this, that the Lord is actually subject to times and hours and places and stars and miracles in the sky and that sort of thing. And even he has to be obedient to fate. This should not be thought about in that way at all. St. Augustine particularly had to put up with this. St. Augustine Hippo, he said, Christ who fabricated, he made the stars, he made the seasons, he's not governed by those. And then St. Augustine went on, neither are you. You're not governed by them either. The times and the seasons, the stars, astrology is irrelevant to you. We ourselves are with God. So in saying, what is this to me, to you, my hour has not yet come, shows the Lord is disengaged from this problem. He's not being rude about it, he's disengaged by it. This is not time for Hollywood spectacular, even one in glorious technicolor with magnificent music and wonderful, huge cast of thousands and all the rest of it. The hour is going to be the sign of the crucifixion. Then the hour will come. That will be the important moment. Well, tomorrow for you, for me, in about 10 minutes from now, I will be saying what happened next, because you have to remember that after all, the Theotokos, the mother of God, is indeed his mother, and the Lord in the end is hoisted by his own rule. And that is that he said to Moses to tell the people of Israel they must honor their father and mother, that they may live long in the land. It's really about eternity. And now he's going to have to honor his mother, but he's going to do it without the spectacular, without the sparklers, without the smoke, without the flames, without the drum rolls and everything else that could have gone with it. Okay, so there we go. Enough of that. Good morning, Natalia and Kirian. God bless you both. Have a good day, everybody. If you could remember to pray for each other. Pray particularly, please, for Peter, whose anniversary fell yesterday. I can pray for him. And also carry on praying, please, for Joseph at the moment. And if you look back, you'll see the other people as well. I'll give you a bit bigger list tomorrow. Okie dokie, right? Nobody's asked any peculiar questions, but I still managed to carry on for 25 minutes. Yeah, other denominations, mistranslated. What is there between me and you? Yes, that is definitely a mistranslation. It should really be to me, to you. it does not mean what is there between me and you. He is not rejecting his mother, as is quite clear later on. It's also, there were some denominations that try and make it clear, some groups that try and detract from the humanity of Christ as well by the use of mater rather than a woman rather than mother, and by saying this, trying to say that actually Mary is not fully his mother. Okay? In other words, he is fully God and not fully human. He is both fully God and fully human. And this is one of those little verses that is often used in order to muddy these particular waters rather than make them crystal clear. Okay? But that is because people prefer to water down Christianity, because it then makes it much easier to live it. Right? Thank you, Christos, for that. And thank you for the translation into Greek there too. Okay, God bless you. I hope you all have a great, beautiful day. Carries on being beautiful weather here. And Chris was going to say hello.
Hello.
Chris was just said hello.
God bless.
He's been very quiet there. Okay. Thank you for your blessing, Dennis, your prayers.